Hi, it's the Chappiness guy. Welcome to today's episode of Vestibular Talks. Today's special guest is Lara. Lara, also known as Mommy Seeing Double on Instagram, offers support for vestibular migraine sufferers, also people that are suffering from other vestibular conditions such as triple PD, also known as PPPD, vestibular neuritis, and she also provides some support for people suffering from anxiety and depression and PTSD due to their chronic illnesses. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy the episode, guys. Find your happiness. All right, Lara, we're live. How are you today?
I'm all right. I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you for taking the time to join us and participate in Vestibular Talks. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Lara, would you mind telling us a little bit about who you are and how your journey began?
Yeah, so I started my blog. So I'm Lara. I started my blog in 2017. So
Okay.
4 years ago, I decided to be brave and I suppose come out about my mental illness and my vestibular struggles. My issues started on the vestibular side was first before mental illness. Back in 2010, early 2010, after I'd had my twin girls. So my trigger was actually giving birth. So hormone fluctuations
Yeah.
kick something off.
Yeah.
And it steadily got worse from there. I have vestibular migraines, diagnosed 2012, vestibular neuritis, which is nerve damage, 2013, and triple PPD, which was 2018. And I also suffer from other things like anxiety, which was triggered off by the vestibular symptoms.
Yes.
Anxiety had never suffered from before. It was always, from all the symptoms I was feeling. Depression, really severe depression, PTSD, stress, and endometriosis as well. So I have I suppose a women's problem.
Yeah.
Endometriosis. I used to have things like IBS and stuff like that, but it's got better since I changed.
Lara, everything that you're saying is so important because I can relate to a lot of it, and many people that suffer from vestibular conditions can relate to it as well. It almost seems like when we get this vestibular migraines thing, it goes like into a domino effect. Like everything else starts showing up, like a triple PD. So that's it can coexist with vestibular migraines as well.
Absolutely.
The anxiety and the depression, very much like you just described. Like I never suffered from anxiety, never suffered from depression, but when this hit me, it took me to a very low point where I was crying every day, hanging onto the ground. I was completely devastated. I didn't find joy in living anymore. I was really sad, and a lot of people can relate to that. So it's quite interesting how something here can affect so many other parts of our body. And I think that you're right. Like the fact that after your pregnancy, I've talked to a lot of women that have had babies, and for some reason their vestibular condition showed up right after. So I think you're right. I think there is a big hormonal part that plays into this. So let us know, Lara. So you got diagnosed in early 2010, 2012, you said.
Yeah.
What kind of treatment did they offer? Did they offer you anything?
So I had a 2-year search for diagnosis. So my symptoms started when my early 2010, and then I had 2 years of going backwards and forwards to general practice doctors and this consultant, that consultant, not getting the right diagnosis, and they didn't know what was wrong with me, telling me I had bouts of labyrinthitis and blah, blah, blah. And it was a really scary, probably the most scariest time was that time of not knowing what I had, but I had all of these symptoms feeling. So I was actually officially diagnosed with vestibular migraine in the October-November 2012.
Okay.
So years on, and a fantastic consultant, vestibular migraine specialist.
Oh.
So it was great because he was an audiologist, but he was his particular interest was vestibular migraine, and he did rule out everything else, and absolutely was 100% it was that and a hormonal trigger. And he recommended I go on a medication, low dose medication of amitriptyline,
Yes.
and that did help to a certain degree. I was on it for quite a number of years, but I think my body got used to it. And the dose was getting higher and higher and higher, because even though it was helping with the vestibular migraine dizziness and the symptoms, unfortunately, having vestibular migraine then for coming on 3 years, I started getting quite depressed. And then when I actually was diagnosed with my second condition, which was actually nerve damage, neuritis in this ear due to antibiotic usage and tonsillitis and some viral attacks. When I was diagnosed in May 2013 on that condition, I just went really downhill, and my amitriptyline dosage went up to 100 milligram because I got such severe depression, suicidal thoughts, all sorts of things were going on. My anxiety was through the roof, and I hit rock bottom because I'd had this second diagnosis. I was like, I'm dealing with one.
Yeah.
I've got a second one now.
Yeah, it's yeah.
So it's you know, the medication, you know, I got to such a point where the medication just made me like a zombie because I was on such a high dose.
Yes.
So
what do you how do you manage to control the symptoms after, when you realize, okay, the medication is way too high, it's making me feel like you're in a dream-like state, like a zombie, like you said. How do you manage to then control the symptoms in order to have a regular life?
So after that, I was on amitriptyline for another year or so. I think I was a sort of three or 4 years on that. I steadily came down in dosage because they realized that, you know, it just wasn't helping. It was making me zombie state. I then went on to a different medication, and propranolol, I think it was. And that really, really helped. But I have quite good blood pressure anyway, and it made it really, really low. So I decided with my consultant to come off that, and it was causing some breathing issues with me. So I decided to come off that and try and self-manage with exercise and walking and everything. But I think now I realise that I can actually do it off medication and do it with exercise and walking and diet and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's unfortunate that these medications that they give us often cause, they trigger some side effects that are quite uncomfortable. Like with the amitriptyline, you felt like a zombie. And with the propranolol, you say your blood pressure started coming down, which can be very scary because the symptoms that it brings onto as well. So now that you mentioned that you're managing with exercise, diet, are there any things that you eat particularly that may trigger more symptoms, that make you more dizzy or anything like that?
Yeah, MSG is not a good one for me.
Yeah, I know.
So that's obviously in Chinese food, and they put it into a lot of things to make it taste good, but it's actually, I think it does something to compress the nerves or something. It's not particularly great for migraine sufferers. So that was definitely I don't have an awful lot of food triggers.
Okay.
There are absolutely definitely definitive ones like MSG I've just mentioned. Alcohol's not great for me. So I gave up alcohol 8 years ago, unfortunately, which was really bizarre because I used to really like a drink.
Party it up. I used to party.
Caffeine, it's not good for me. I think it's very personal. I think, you know, a lot of people say to me, oh, but you can have avocados and you can have bananas and you can have this, but I think when you're in a really bad migraine state, these foods can really react really badly to you. But when actually you come out and you calm down from that state better, you can then tolerate more foods, maybe. it's kind of a trial and error.
I agree.
I've managed. I used to have a lot more intolerances with foods, but I've managed, as I've got much better over the 11 years, to introduce back bananas, to introduce back avocados and different things. Like I've got to be careful with things like soya. Not very good for my headaches. I'm dairy free anyway, so dairy's not great because it's inflammatory.
Yes.
Causes headaches. So I speak to so many people that have so many different food.
Yeah, we're all very unique, but the main things that you mentioned are very common for everybody: MSG, soy, coffee. What was the other one that you said that I was lactose, milk and cheese can, like that can definitely trigger someone. Lara, how are you with sleeping? Because for example, with me, if I don't get a full night's sleep, I wake up feeling all groggy, and the symptoms are like all the way to the top. How about you?
I sleep really well because I do meditation last thing at night.
Nice.
So fall asleep as I'm doing it. So halfway, I don't know when I fall asleep, but it's got to be like halfway through because I can only remember the first 5 minutes of the 10-minute session. So that really helps with sleep. It was actually a really good life-changing experience, meditation, and calming my mindset down after a busy working day. And so my sleep pattern's really good. As long as I get 8 hours, 7-8 hours is perfect for me. If I get less, it's bad. If I get more, it's bad. So I know with vestibular migraine sufferers that I've spoken to, and I know consultants say this as well, and from a personal perspective, having a really good routine and pattern of finding your exact hours of sleep is really good. Because there's been signs when I used to write a symptom diary, for example, I used to see the fluctuations of symptoms when I've had too much sleep on a Saturday, or laid in, my alarm didn't go off, and I've really had groggy and depersonalization, derealization, and some really bad symptoms that day. And similarly, if I have 4-3 hours sleep, it's not good. So I think 7 to 8 hours is I think we're all very different, but that's my.
Okay. Lara, you mentioned work. You said a work day. A lot of people that have these conditions often have to stop their careers. And interesting enough, I was one of those that when this hit me, I felt like I was at the top of the world. I had a great career, making a lot of money. I was successful, very high-paced life, like go all the time, and this kind of like boom took me down. So many people, I'm working again, and I love what I'm doing. The company that I work for is a really good company now, and people ask me, they are like, am I ever gonna get back to work? Am I ever gonna be able to work? And I said, well, that's very unique. Like that very depends on you and how much you can handle, how well you feel. But how was it for you? How did these conditions impact your work and social life, or you kind of maneuver through them the whole time?
It massively impacted me on the work side. I was a bit stubborn with the work thing when I was really chronic, between 2010 and 15. I just plowed through work, and I thought, I'll just get on with work and it will cover up my symptoms and it will divert. Yes, it did divert my attention a little bit, but it actually made me run away from what I should be doing, was actually connecting deeper to myself and actually giving myself space and reducing my workload, because I was in such a chronic state that putting work on top and putting the biggest trigger, which is computers, on top of that, it really spiked my symptoms massively, and anxiety and stress and everything. So I was very stubborn. I ran my own business, and it got to the breaking point of 2017 where I was thinking, this is no good. I really got to simplify everything and reduce my workload and just take a break and let my brain heal so I can get better. So I made the awful and really tough decision to close my business in 2018 in the March, and I took a year out. And I'm privileged and lucky enough to be able to financially okay to take a year out because my husband's got a job and it was tight, but we did it. And then we had to do it because I've got 2 young children that I was, if I didn't get better, I would be no good for them. And I'd missed out 3 years of their life already. And I thought, when I was really chronic, and I thought, I'm not gonna, before they get over sort of 10 years old, I do not want to, miss any more time out. So I decided to close the business, which was awful. It kicked off vestibular migraine, just that stress of closing the business, the upset that caused. But in the long term, it was the best decision that I did. I think if I hadn't closed the business, I probably would have reduced my hours and got more people in to manage things. But I just felt by running my business, it was me, and I had a colleague, but I felt I was just, without me in the business, it wasn't a business really. So I took a year out, I got better. I started exercising more. I started focusing even more on my nutrition, my gut healing, my mental health, lots of nature walks, lots of tree hugging. So I did a lot in that year, read lots of books and did my research and just looked after myself and simplified everything. Everything started to calm down. And then after the year, I just wanted to stimulate my brain again and start working again. So I joined my husband's business and do marketing for him. But I started off incredibly slowly, literally a day a week, or half a day a week for ages, and then 2 days a week. And then now I'm full time as of last September.
Nice.
But I really, and that's taken 2 years to get to, that
it's
point.
very important, like you're saying, like it has to be like a gradual introduction back into the workforce. You cannot just submerge yourself back in full time, because you're right, like a stressful moment can trigger the symptoms again into a chronic state. So you're very right. Lara, are you the first person in your family that has experienced symptoms like this? Or because the reason why I'm asking is because there seems to be a genetic relationship with people. Like, for example, my mother suffers from migraines, no vestibular migraines, just the headache pain migraine. But I am the first one in the family with the whole vertigo, the dizziness. So I was curious about you. Are you the first one in your family, or do you have somebody else that suffers?
I have people in my family that are migrainous, aunties and people like that, but that's your normal migraines. They don't have the dizziness, and they've got the nausea and the headaches and stuff, but they don't have the vertigo, the dizziness, the derealization, the light sensitivity, everything. So I'm the first person.
I guess we're the lucky ones. Yeah.
However, actually my father has experienced vertigo.
Okay.
So that's horrific for him, and I don't wish it on anybody. In a way, he understands how horrific it can be, and certainly on a long. He said, I had vertigo for sort of 5-10 minutes. How you've dealt with it for 11 years.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that is so true, Lara. I have a friend that she's diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a very tough condition to have. And she experienced a bout of vertigo for 2 weeks. And she came up to me and she said, Johan, I have no idea how you do it. She's like, all the other symptoms of MS, she's like, I can handle, but this vertigo, she's like, it was horrible. Like, you feel you're out of control. You feel like you're out of your body. You feel this high state of panic and anxiety. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, you're describing it completely right. So you're right, Lara. Like, I do not wish this on anybody, because it's so debilitating, and it's so hard to maneuver. It's so hard to control, because it just completely takes you out of place, out of balance. So yeah, no, you're right. Now, Lara, what are some things that you do? You mentioned meditation. What else do you do in order to bring the anxiety and the depression that this brings into a more manageable level?
So my meditation, as you mentioned there, I do that religiously if I can, 3 times a week at least. Sometimes when I'm feeling okay, I forget. And that's why it's about 3 times a week, because I would do it every single night religiously. And actually, when I'm going through a real relapse, I up it, and I've got to do it every night. I set my alarm, and I've got to do it every night. Walking in nature has been one of the biggest healers. Tree hugging. People think I'm mad, but it's great for the tree, but I love it because it grounds me, and I feel really stable hugging that trunk of the tree. It's really stable, and I imagine roots coming from my feet and going down into the ground, and really stable, and I take that with me through the rest of the day and the week. So I do hug lots of trees. I also do something called EFT tapping. So there's something called meridian points around your body. So temple and under here, and basically, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a affirmation tool, a mindfulness tool that's really, really good for pain management, stress, anxiety, depression, and it just reinforces to your brain that you're safe. If you set up a statement like, I'm really, really dizzy at the moment, I'm feeling really anxious, and you tap on the meridian points as you're saying it in your mind or saying it out loud if you're not on a train. And you tap on the meridian points, and it really enforces, and you keep going round, and you keep doing it until you're just come. And it's got me out of some really, really sticky situations, some really bad panic attacks over the years.
I like that because it's something that is free, and we can do on our own, and it's not difficult to do. Like, as you mentioned, you just tap in specific areas, and you can do that like you said, like even when you're in public or you're at home or you're at work. Like, it's something that we can do, and
people in it themselves. They can go on YouTube, and there's in fact, when you go to hypnotherapy, for example, I did have some hypnotherapy a few years ago, and she used it as part of the rewiring of the brain. And it's very, very effective in that situation. But you can learn it really. I mean, I originally found out about it because I was doing it before hypnotherapy. I found out about it through my therapist. I was in therapy for a few years for depression, anxiety, and panic disorder. And she told me about EFT tapping, and I was thinking, are you mad? Go around tapping my head in restaurants and in the car, but actually I eat my hat because it is absolutely, I just find it really soothing. It takes practice, but it's
it's good. I'm gonna check it out and apply it myself, because why not? It's anything that helps, and especially if it's something that we can do on our own, then that's great. Lara, before we continue on, I wanted to say and compliment you again, because number one, love your hair, fantastic hair, and also that you're dressed up so nice and pretty. And I was saying, I'm hearing like my pajama jacket.
So I took it off. Nice, lovely color on, but I got so hot. It's like, whoa. So thank you. You look fantastic. Very much.
Anyways, getting back into this, I know you're very active on Instagram, and you're very real. Like, you don't sugarcoat things in Instagram. You basically say it as it is. And I believe part of it is because you're trying to raise awareness on how debilitating and how serious these conditions are. Because many of us, when we've gone to consultants, to doctors, to specialists, often they said, oh, it's in your head, it's anxiety, like you'll be okay. And yes, obviously it's anxiety, because we're dealing with something chronic that is affecting our nervous system. So obviously anxiety plays a part on it. So I don't understand why doctors just kind of like dismiss it, like, oh yeah, it's just anxiety. So I see in your Instagram that you're very, very real with the things that you say. What got you to become so brave and be like, okay, you know what, enough is enough, I'm going to actually explain to people what I'm going through? Like, what motivated you?
The motivation behind it was I was getting quite frustrated with the lack of knowledge out there, the lack of understanding about invisible illnesses. Or, you look fine, you know, you've got makeup on, you know, you curled your hair, you've got smart clothes, you're fine, you've got no mental illness, you've got no vestibular, it can't possibly be debilitating. You're still coming out of an evening, or, you know, and it was really, really tough to explain to someone. You know, I might sit here, like even at the moment I'm dizzy, because I had a really busy day on the computer. I'm swaying like a boat on rocky seas, but I hide it well now because I'm really, my brain's got retrained and can cope with it better now. With my anxiety and depression, it's something that I hid for a long time. There wasn't anybody I knew that had it, and and actually the reason why I came out is because I just felt that there was lack of understanding out there. There needed to be some raising awareness. I wanted to do as much as I could to educate people, and that's not in a patronizing way. It was more in that it will help others trying to explain what they've got. It's still a battle out there, but hopefully with all the ambassadors around the world and all of the people that raise awareness, it's getting better. There's a few celebrities that have come out that have got vestibular Meniere's disease and people like that. So, and I just wanted to, I suppose, when I do leave this earth, I wanted to leave behind something that I've done that, has been helpful, I suppose, and helping others. The other reason why I came out is actually to help other sufferers feel less alone, because I think it's a very, very lonely conditions, because they're invisible. And even though there's lots of people out there that have it, you still do feel alone. I mean, I've got a support group on Facebook, which is fantastic, and we support each other like a family. When they can't speak to their family and friends about it who don't understand, they've got people to speak to. So yes, I'm very raw and real. You see the good parts, you see the bad parts, you see the so-so days, you see the suicidal thoughts, I mean, I don't get those as much now, but I've had really dark days. I still do get some dark days. I get some very anxious days. I get extremely vertigo days, less now. But I think if there's no point in not being raw and real. If you've got an Instagram account raising awareness, there's so much fakeness in the world now. It's just pointless.
Right. And something that you said earlier that I think is a great point. You said you've been dealing with this for so many years that even when you're in a high symptom state, you learn how to cope better with it. And that's the key. I get a lot of people that ask me, hey, John, am I ever going to get used to it? And I said, it's not really getting used to it, but like you just said, coping better with it, because you kind of start to understand your limits, your boundaries, you understand your symptoms, you understand how far you can go. So that's, I'm going to start telling people that, telling them, yes, you learn how to cope with it.
You learn how to, as my consultant used to say, I'm signed off him now, hopefully, forever. He used to say, I manage it well. I may still have, vestibular migraine all my life, but if I think that I don't have it every day, then that's mentally better for me. Yes, the relapses come in and out now and again, and I go, oh, acknowledge it, embrace it, okay, learn from it. And I learn from every single relapse.
Yes.
So don't get scared of relapses now. They are frightening when they're happening, but I try and learn from them. I think about, because I used to do a symptom diary way back when, which really helped get to know my triggers, find the good balance. And just to get to know me really. So I think as long as it's a difficult one, because you need to find your coping strategy and your own personal treatment plan.
Yeah, Lara, a question that many people ask me is parenting. They say, how on God's earth can we parent our children while we're dealing with this? So people often feel the guilt that they are not spending enough time with their kids, or that they are not able to do certain activities with their children. I know what they mean, because I have a 14-year-old son, and I experienced that at the beginning when I was going through this. It was very hard to be present for him, because I was constantly debilitated on the ground, crying. But it's gotten better. It's more manageable. How is it for you with your children? How are you able to be a parent to them?
Well, it's been a negative and a positive over the years. The positive out of a negative situation is that they've become very empathetic and respectful of people that have illnesses. So they're growing up in a world that is better at dealing with people with mental health now. But to have a mother with vestibular issues and mental health is tough on the kids, especially when they're young, because they don't really understand that mummy gets very tired, mummy's in bed. Why am I carrying her walking stick up to her? And you know, they used to bring my walking stick up to me. They used to have to make me breakfast in bed because I couldn't get up. You know, they've been making their own breakfast since they were 3. So independently wise, they've really become more rounded people. Mm-hmm. I think it's been a really good thing for them. I've tried to hide the really dark sides, the suicide. I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody. Yeah. I've opened up to the right people on that, therapists, the professionals. I wouldn't want to put on anybody that kind of thing. But there's very difficult to hide your drop attacks, because I get vertigo drop attacks and mummy's fallen on the floor again, and you know, daddy, it's frightening for them. But I can't hide that because I just literally go like I'm fainting. But they cope very well, actually. The hard thing for me and for them was I couldn't go to the cinema when they were younger. I couldn't go to the theatre. I couldn't go to the shops as much as I'd want to. I couldn't drive. You know, it strips you of your independence, and it makes you feel incredibly guilty. But I suppose over the years, I've thought to myself, well, look, you know, I'm doing the best I can. I've got chronic illness. It's not my fault that I have it. And as I say, there's positive that luckily come out of it, and I think they really do. You know, even now it's very a novelty now when I go to the cinema now. Well, pre-COVID, when I started going to the cinema again and getting better, and I was at the theatre and I was going ice skating with them, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I've been doing this for 10 years. What? Oh, lovely. It's a lovely surprise for them.
That is great. Yes. And those accomplishments that may seem little to people that are healthy, for us, it's a huge mountain climb. Like for us, it's like
they're tiny people, but they're ginormous. Just even going to the supermarket with all that, you know, the aisle stimulation. You know, I online delivery, but I find it but to some other people that don't have vestibular issues or anxiety or anything, it's just second nature. We
take it for granted. Yeah. It's, and it's interesting that you're saying about the cinema, and when you said earlier that the computer, spending a long time in the computer can be a trigger. Like I can be right now chatting with you in the computer, and I can handle about an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I cannot watch TV. I try to watch TV, and the switching of the scenes so quick, and all the colors and all the things, it just gets me going. So I for 2 years now, I haven't been able to watch TV. So
do you find, because the only way I can watch TV at nighttime is daytime. I'm all right if I've got enough natural light around me. But in the nighttime, I can't watch TV unless I've got a lamp behind me.
Okay.
But I've got some light in my peripheral, and so it drives my husband mad because he wants it all dark and cinema.
All dark, I know. Yeah, that's my wife too. Yeah.
And there's me saying, Alexa, turn the light on 20%. But he's learned to know that helps me. If I've got a glimmer of light in, and it's not dark as in blinkered.
Yeah.
With my vertigo, it kicks off when I have a very dark tunnel around me, and then I see it at the end. So my idea was, if I have some light around here, it will help, and it does.
Okay, maybe I'll try that. Yes.
And it's training, and it's like the baby steps again. We were talking about work. This is the same as walking and getting to know triggers and things like that. You're going to face triggers for it to retrain your brain. So little bits. Don't watch a whole feature film straight away. 10 minutes, once a week, then build it up 20 minutes once a week.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I'll give that a go and see. Yeah, maybe someday I'll be able to watch TV again.
Yes.
Yeah. What about your husband? So, for example, in my own case, for my wife at the beginning, it was extremely confusing. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to understand or how to relate what I was going through. She's like, I don't know how to help you. She's like, well, I want to help you, but I don't know how. And when the doctors are basically passing you from one doctor to the next and the next and the next, it becomes very taxing on your partner because they start wondering, like, are they going mad, or is something, is this a mental illness, is this, and also the expense, because it gets really expensive trying to go through all these doctors, trying to try different therapies, trying to go to hypnotists, to physiotherapists, to chiropractors. So how was it for your husband getting into this journey with you? Like, was he very understanding, or was he confused and lost?
He was confused and lost for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Only regret I have is not bringing him to the professional appointments early on.
Yes.
Because the one thing that really helped my parents understand more, before my dad had vertigo, a little vertigo thing was a few years ago, but back then, you know, they never had anything like this themselves, and they came to pretty much every appointment I had, which is over 150 of them. So the commitment and the support from them has just been incredible. My husband's been incredible support, but he's got a job and he's got work to do, and he doesn't have time to keep going to appointments and stuff. Yeah. But I was very, very lucky that my parents, I think if you can take a family member to an appointment with you, the consultants are very happy to have anybody else in there with you, just as you know, double checking things, and because we do forget what the consultants have said. Yeah. And our brain fog, derealization, you know, you just can't remember things. I used to send letters in prior to the appointments because I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But my husband has found it very hard for years. He's tried to support, and he has supported, but I think the worst part was me curled up on the garage floor wanting to end it. I mean, when you've got to that point, what can you do with this person that's lying on the floor or bashing holes in walls, because it's just out of pure frustration.
Yeah.
And I do, the only sort of regret is not taking him to the therapy, maybe one therapy session with my CBT therapist just to help him through it, and a joint session, one joint session.
Yeah.
And take him to more professional vestibular appointments so that he could hear it from the horse's mouth, and so he could or ask questions himself. I did eventually take him.
Okay.
In 2018, I had another nerve test to see where I was at with the neuritis, and he came with me, and I think he was just like, whoa, this is how complicated. Okay.
Yeah.
And it kind of dawned on him, but unfortunately, the last year and a half, he has experienced a bit of dizziness himself, and he's got tinnitus now. So, and just, I would, as I said before, I wouldn't wish this worst on my worst enemy, but yeah. Let alone my husband, and that's been quite traumatic for him, obviously, but also PTSD wise, it's been stressful. You know, I know what it's like, and it's sometimes worse because you're like, oh my God, please go, you know. I hope it goes at some point.
Yeah.
But at least I understand what it's like. But he has found it very tough, and he's tried to support me as much as I can. He used to get quite frustrated if I couldn't go for walks one day, like on a Sunday. He'd want to go for a family walk, and I'd be like, I'm so dizzy, I can't even step out my door. There was frustrations there, but I think, you know, he has adapted to it. But I can see how it can break down relationships, because we've had tough times because of it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Two symptoms that you keep bringing up in the conversation that are very important are PTSD, which I completely agree. We often feel like when you feel the sensation of the actual strong vertigo coming on, and let's say that you were doing something like you leaned over to grab something and you feel that sensation, you become trauma with PTSD, because now you're afraid of bending over a little bit because you don't want to repeat that sensation. So it's very, very common that we get PTSD from this. And the other thing is derealization. Many people deal with it and they say that it's one of the worst symptoms ever for them. How can you explain to us? I often tell people that it's been in like a dream-like state where it's almost like your soul has left your body and you're kind of seeing yourself in third person. That's how I explain it.
That is such a good way to explain it.
In your own words, how is it for you? How do you feel it?
It's like an outer body experience. It's like I'm looking at myself from above or behind or whatever. It's like I'm not living in my body and I'm not living in the world. And it's to me, the word is skewed. It's like I've got glasses about that thick on. I can't see clearly. It's blurry. It just is just awful. It ties in with anxiety with me, because it kicks off my anxiety massively, and then it becomes a loop. I get more derealization.
Sorry, that's very crazy.
So yeah, it's PTSD wise, I think my very, very first major attack gave me my biggest PTSD, and because it was like I was in a stroke, the ping in the head. So I felt a ping in, and it was a vertigo, and I dropped on the floor from a seating position. I wasn't even standing.
Yeah.
And I was on the computer, and I called my parents. I think I'm having a stroke. And then the second major attack was on a motorway drive, and that caused me, and I had to go into intensive therapy after that because of it. I thought I was going mad. I thought I had schizophrenia, because I could, yes. I just could, the derealization was so severe that and the anxiety was so severe, and the panic attacks after that was so severe that I just could not think straight. And I thought I was going mad. I actually thought I was.
It is. You do think you're going crazy. I know. I kept telling people, I'm like, I think something's wrong. I think I'm not thinking like making sense of anything, because the symptoms are so out of control. They are so weird. Yeah. Lara, what does the future hold for you now?
Well, I want to get fitter. So I think the exercise helps so much that I just need to latch on to that again. Lockdown's been tough, and it makes you a little bit more depressed and anxious. So I need to get out in nature more. I need to exercise more. I want to raise more awareness. Doing videos like this is fantastic, because it just raises more and more awareness. I mean, their written posts are great, but there's nothing better than videos. So I want to do more videos with people. I want to try and get on the TV and talk about it and get it out in the world. So yeah, and just enjoying my kids now that my brain is in a more of a calm state, and then I'm healing more and more as we go along. I just got to keep focused on my treatment plan and my maintenance, my management plan, and just keep more positive. And I do have my moments still, but it's just trying to look after myself really, and not let myself get overloaded again.
Yes.
Because then it picks things up.
Yeah. Lara, so you're very active on Instagram. Sorry?
Easier said than done.
Yeah, I know. Lara, you're very active on Instagram, but where can people find you?
So I'm on Facebook. So everything I post on Instagram goes onto my Mummy Seeing Double public page. I also have a private support group called Mummy Seeing Double Support, there's a link actually on my public Facebook. I've got a website, mummyseeingdouble.com, but I've really not been able to do a blog for ages and ages, so I do apologise, but it's very out of date. So Instagram, I'm on Twitter, but I'm on Instagram more. That's where I am mainly, is Instagram.
Awesome. And Lara, my last question to you is, as you know, this channel is called Find Your Chappiness, so find your happiness. So how does Lara find her happiness?
Hugging trees.
Tree hugging. Hey, yeah, I'm gonna try it too.
I've had to hug more trees recently because I can't hug people.
Yeah, no, and then you know what? Like that might be. I never try hugging a tree, but that might be something that connects you with nature. Yeah.
Hashtag hugging trees heals us.
Oh, I'm gonna try that one too. Yeah,
No,
hugging trees. Hey.
Happiness is hugging trees, but my first thing is my kids and, you know, enjoying the family. That makes me happy.
Awesome, man.
Being able to do more and more with the kids is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, the value of family is usually underestimated when we're busy and working and doing all these things. But when you actually get grounded again and you feel that connection with your loved ones, you feel how valuable and how important that is. So yeah, I agree. I think that's an excellent point. All right, Lara, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And then I know many people are gonna love your episode. I know many people are gonna probably have a ton of questions. So
drop them into the comments and I'll reply, no problem. Or they can direct me.
Awesome. And now you have a friend in Canada. So if you and your family ever want to come to Canada, hey, welcome to my house.
It's on the list.
All right, Lara, have a fantastic day.
And you, thank you very much.
Hey, bye.
Bye.